بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. As we all know, brothers and sisters, what is taking place in Gaza in the last 2 or 3 days, we have had probably over 500 to 600 killed, shuhada, inshallah. We have had a masjid that was attacked day before yesterday, Fajr time, 100 people killed instantly, and many more hundreds in the hospital. Hospitals are being attacked. Also, the school was attacked the other day, and the genocide continues with numbers just stacking on the top of other. Some numbers go up to almost 200,000 killed. Now, the question, though, is that the response of the Muslim Ummah has not been at the level of the crime being committed. And this is a very concerning situation, and concerning as far as, for instance, any people may question for the quota system in Bangladesh. We had, thousands of people on the streets to the point of a coup. That even the dictator of the time, for almost 20 years, was replaced. But we didn't see, or are not seeing, the kind of shaking up that needs to be seen, where thrones are overthrown, with the kind of killing that is taking place in Gaza, and the role of Israel in general. So inshallah, to discuss this, we have our brother Ibrahim. He's actually here from Denmark. And the discussion, inshallah, will be few folds here. One will be the response of the Muslims in Europe, at least, let's say, because, you're obviously seeing Europe closely than we are here in the United States. Some of the differences also we'll talk about, because I'm sure you're observing the Muslims and their role here in the US, and also in general, the response of the Ummah as a whole. Let's start with this, Sheikh. Why do you think that, for instance, in Egypt, when, thousands, millions actually came out on the streets, Tahrir Square, for instance, and the issue at the time was bread and shelter. You see the situation in Bangladesh, where it's been jobs, that unemployment, and economy. But when it comes to Palestine and the situation of Gaza, we haven't seen that kind of response. Give me some of the what are you thinking, Sheikh, when you are observing this? Let's say from Europe, as a Muslim first.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala rasulullah, and assalamu alaikum to all the viewers and to you. And thank you for having me.
Of course.
The thing is, the response to Gaza cannot be answered in one simple statement from the Muslim world itself, and also from the non-Muslim world. There are many factors. There are many things that we need to consider before we answer this question. So you've seen, and you just introduced us with what happens in Gaza. The catastrophe is so big that we cannot describe it with words. The sorrow is so big we cannot find words to say what we feel in our inside ourselves, right? So
we're not even allowed to say.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the thing is, why aren't we seeing the people going to the streets, the enragement of the revolutions, of the protesters, as you're asking for. On the one side, we have seen some. And on the other side, we will see more, right? So what we have seen, we saw people, Muslims in Jordan, for instance, we saw people in Iraq and in Egypt. It had like, it was boiling in the beginning, but then it faded out.
Mm.
In the European countries, we saw big protesters. We saw several 100,000 protesters in London, in Britain. We saw a lot of, we watched the news from you guys as well here in the US, a lot of big protesters as well. But it seems like it also faded out. So there has been a response, there has been a reaction, but the reaction faded out with time. And this is several factors that we considered for this one. Now, looking at the country I'm coming from, Denmark, there were huge protesters. Considering the small population of Denmark, like where we have 6 million people, some estimates were that around 100,000 were, some said about 80,000. No, the biggest one, 80,000, 100,000, or 60,000. So this is big. Considered to the level of population, we have big protesters in Denmark, and a lot of them participating in these protesters are non-Muslims, Danish people, of course. So we have seen some reaction, but as I said, it faded out. And the thing is, when people lack clarity, when people don't have a vision for what's the solution, they can go to the streets and they can express their frustration, but this with time will listen. First time we saw the massacres, first time we saw the big bombing in Jabalia, we went to the streets. You didn't have to call no one. Muslims, non-Muslims, they were going to the streets. Why? Because the frustration was big. Now, with the images keep repeating itself every day, the level of frustration, that is a human, that the way humans are built, that the sorrow, the frustration, the enragement, it will listen. Unless there's a clarity in the minds of what is the goal, what is the solution, how can we get there? If you have a clear path, a clear solution, you have the wa'i, the awareness, you will keep going, pushing forward. You will keep pushing forward. Unfortunately, what we saw a lot of people going to the streets, but there was a lack of awareness of what are we calling for, right? So people were saying free Palestine. In Denmark, it was as well as the UK and the US.
Most of the West.
Germany, France, free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
But Sheikh,
so, let me continue on this one. Now, if you ask people, and I did this, how will we have a free Palestine from the river to the sea? Is it by going to the UN? How will the UN give you a free Palestine when they were the ones that established the occupation state?
They created.
Why are you going to the politicians that have blood on their hands and support the genocide? Why are you going to the people that are the very reason behind this genocide, and you say free Palestine? So I'm missing a thought process here. Why or how are we going from this situation to a free Palestine from the river to the sea? Not you, but when I have these discussions with people, sure. Muslims and non-Muslims, tell me, how do we get there? And it's blurred. Yeah, there's a lack of awareness.
Fine. Look, that's the Western world. Fine, I understand. Let's stick with the Muslim world for now. I mean, Saudi Arabia. Complete silence. To the point where people are having, there's dancing on the streets. I mean, you can see what Mohammed bin Salman is doing, staging, actors coming, celebrities are coming from all over the world. You look at, fine, there are demonstrations in Jordan, there's some movements happening in Iraq, as you mentioned. And even till now, even Iraq is active and Yemen is active. I understand Yemen has. But Sheikh, I think the people, when we look at the Muslim world, I mean, they are well aware of the crimes of Israel. Have they themselves, do they lack what should be the solution for this area, for this region? Do they lack the vision for that themselves? Even if you do lack vision, Sheikh, I mean, but they are, this is happening to Muslims few hours away from them, some maybe half an hour away from them.
Yeah. And you could take examples with Egypt as well and Jordan. Now we talk geopolitical issues. Now we're talking about the Middle East. And we can have a small talk about the Middle East, no problem. But that's a deeper topic. The thing is, you need to understand that the Muslim Ummah is the best Ummah ukhrijat linnas. And they have strong iman, strong faith, and they have feelings for their brothers, and they want change. And if you visit some of these countries, as a Muslim, they will put you on their heads. And if you come as a Palestinian, as they say in Arabic, we put you on our eyes. And I've been in those countries, some of them, and I see their love. And I see that because Palestine is aqidah. Palestine is not just a place of land that is occupied. It is, but it's also more than that. It is the three holiest, right? It's the Prophet's land. It's the Isra wal Mi'raj. So it is the aqidah. And Muslims have Palestine deep inside them, in their heart and in their minds and their feelings, in their iman. So the issue is not about the ummah lacking proper Islamic beliefs or proper Islamic sentiments or motivation. The problem is that you are dealing in these states with a lack of clarity from the people that are on the manabir, on the minbar, that are directing the Muslims toward dua, towards boycott, towards sadaqat, towards sending clothes and what have you. So there are people that are functioning as gatekeepers for what thoughts and what direction can the people go or not. And the MBS, you know that he has now maybe the biggest branch, let me say in that way, the biggest branch in terms of work in Saudi Arabia would be the intelligence. Okay, so you have strong control, tyranny from these dictators. So we have to free ourselves. Okay, no, and the thing is that in order to free Palestine, we also need to free ourselves from going the wrong directions. We need to free ourselves. Yani, sometimes people will come and say, we should boycott. I said, yes, we should boycott. And he said, yeah, but boycott is also the solution, because then we will weaken the economy of 1, 2, 3, and then it will happen. I said, yes, boycott is the solution. Let's boycott the international world. Let's boycott the national state. Let us boycott the two-state solution. Let's boycott the ceasefire call. Let us boycott that what would keep this occupation living. Let's boycott those. And then we can boycott Coca-Cola and Pepsi, or we can do the both same. No problem. But you cannot tell me the boycott is for merchandise and what have you, and you are still going to the same routes that are funding and were establishing the occupation.
I want to just hold on. I mean, let's stick with Muslim world a little bit more before, because we need to go back to Europe. I understand, but Sheikh, so when you observe what's happening in Bangladesh, youth came in. Some of the numbers are close to maybe 1,000 killed. We don't know how many hundreds injured, how many people, how many are in jail. If Palestine is aqidah, then why not the same push until governments are overthrown over this issue?
Because we have been colonized. We have been colonized not only military, not only institutionally, but also in our minds, right? There's an occupation of minds. We think in terms of national state solutions. We think in terms of human rights and international world order. That occupation in the minds, occupation of thoughts, that's the war that every Muslim has to engage in. The war of freeing themselves from these systems, from these solutions that are being proposed to us by the Western governments and from the governments in the Muslim lands. They are one of them, the same kind. So we have to free ourselves as a Muslims in Bangladesh, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Egypt, in Syria, in Turkey, even in America and in Europe. We as Muslims are one ummah. Why don't we go back to our own solutions? The issue of Palestine and the issue of Bangladesh and what have you, they are Muslim issues. Why don't we go back to Islam for the solutions? Why don't we take ownership over our own problems and crises and give our own solution. Yani, does the Quran lack any solution? No, it does not. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us how to make wudu and how to go pray and what hand to eat with? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mention for us how to organize our affairs, how to do politics, how to do state work. Did Islam leave that just up in the nowhere, and people should find the answers for themselves in the big questions, whereas the small questions we have detailed navigations and so the problem is we have to free ourselves from these solutions that are being proposed. And they're not only being proposed, we have to be careful. They are being pushed down upon Muslims. So if you talk outside of the box, if you say the occupation, Israel has to be eliminated, cease to exist, it has to be destroyed. That's the call that we should call for. If you say that, people will shut you down. They will maybe be monitoring you or doing, but you know what the biggest problem is? That is that the Muslims, and here I talk about the leaders of the Muslims, not the hukams, but the imams, the ulamas, they are practicing, what do you call it? Self-censor?
Censorship.
Yeah, self-censor. They are censoring themselves.
Do you think they're censoring themselves?
They are.
I mean,
brother,
I actually believe they're being paid for it. But
okay, let's not dig into.
Let's say I don't go that far, but
do you consider any Muslim alim that he is in doubt what the solution, the real Islamic solution is?
Oh, some of them, yes, I do.
Do you really?
I really do.
But he's not an alim.
That's the issue. That's the issue. No, I do. I really do. Maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years before, I probably didn't, because I had certain understanding of what the ulama should be or what an alim should be. But when I'm looking at the ulama today, look, here's the thing, Sheikh. So there has been a phenomenon, and I think this is also in the West, I'm sure in general, in Denmark also. But here, every 6 years, 4 years, 6 years, we have this, because, now every corner there is an alim school. We have, I don't want to name these madaris, but we have now, as I said, every corner. Every 4 to 6 years, we have hundreds of ulama. Supposedly, these ulama are graduating without understanding of al-waqiyah, without understanding how to apply hukum shari on these realities. Many of them may not be able to even pinpoint where Masjid al-Aqsa is on the map. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I've had discussions with many of the ulama, especially the new ones, when they come and when we talk about them, they have no clue what's going on. So it seems almost a very systematic.
I would ask you, is this
systematic way?
Is this coincidental? Was it?
No, that's what I'm. That's what I'm.
Coincidence.
Sure. So that's what I'm asking you. So when you say, so now, Sheikh Hani, are we? Is there a new breed of ulama being prepared, put together, in order to make us forget about the priorities, have an Islam that fulfills the interest of the West, or a Western Islam, secular nation state, very calm, quiet, not aggressive, religious madhab type of thing?
This is not new. Sheikh Shiraz, you know it, I know it. This is not new. In the US, you're more, maybe they're more advancing than in our country. Allow me to speak freely.
Oh no, I want you to. That's why when you asked me, I said no, I don't agree.
Today we have what I call platform Islam. Platform Islam is in that order: the platform first, then Islam. So you are thinking of preserving your platform, getting bigger, having a lot of views, a lot of followers, and you do it by talk about Islam. But what comes first? The platform. So your Islamic appeal, your Islamic agenda, for some of the brothers doing the things, not all, of course, they are more interested in preserving their platforms. And I can tell you, because I have met these brothers and I've talked to them, and I understand their logic. And the logic is this misunderstood maslaha about, brother, I have this markaz, this mosque, I have this center. there is 2,000 people coming here, or 500 or whatever. And in Denmark, I've seen this, and in other countries. And the thing is, brother, you are not doing what you have to do as an imam or a khatib or the board of the mosque in this mosque. You are not given the talk you have to regarding, for instance, Palestine. You are shaitan akhras. In this regard, the ayat are very clear. The Islamic solution are very clear. Why are you refraining from uttering the Islamic solution? You know it, I know it. He says, I know. And he feels bad. But he says, we are afraid that we could lose our platform. So the platform, with all the benefits that he sees in it, thousands, maybe hundreds of children coming every week, the Jummah prayer, the Salah, a lot of benefit. But that makes him refrain from taking the correct stance in this issue. For instance, Palestine is very obvious. So I go there, listen to the talks, and he would say, we need a Salahuddin. We need a Salahuddin in terms of bringing up the next generation at home with strong beliefs and a lot of dua and qiyam al-layl. And we need to make dua, and we need to give sadaqah, and we need. All of this is correct. But you're missing one point. When I engage with brothers, for example, I'll give you an example so you understand the logic. I said, brother, if it is Ramadan and we have to fast, and one comes to you, I'm not fasting, will you tell him, make qiyam al-layl extra, make sadaqah extra, make the dua extra? Will you tell him, go do? Or will you say, you are making a sin? It is haram for you not to fast. You have to fast. If you told him 100 voluntary good actions to do, but you didn't tell him this thing, you will have given him the path to Jahannam because he's missing a fard. And you went and gave him the solution for mandubat. Correct? Okay. The same goes with Palestine. You can say a lot of things that the Muslims have to do, but if you don't say that thing that is the solution, you have brought the Muslims in the wrong direction. So the thing is here, what are the value? That's the question. What are the value of our platforms if we can't speak what Islam demands of us? If we are shutting down the call that Islam has demanded, required in the instances, if we are twisting Islam or refraining from talking about it, so what is this masjid then?
Do you think the imams or the ulama today, this is a special political class being built for the Islam they need in the West?
Not now. That has been going on.
So you consider them to be a specific political class that is being set? Because look, we don't have, this is something, I was just thinking about that. Look, we don't have politicians, let's say. You can't find, I may not find Muhammad and Imran and Ibrahim in, let's say, in 5 out of 15 politicians are. But do you think they know that the Muslims they do listen to their imams, they do listen to their ulama? Do you think it's a strategy to make the ulama the tongue of the politicians? Because of first of all, we do lack population. We are only less than 1% of the population in the US at least. But it's a population that does matter.
Yes.
So it's a very wealthy population. It has a lot of say in because of the wealth it has. It's very educated. It's in very important spaces. So do you think that the ulama class has been made to replace the politicians? Almost a deception.
I will answer you.
Is this a deception? And we are thinking they're ulama. These are really wolf in the sheep.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the governments are putting up the field. If you want to play on the field without challenges, you have to conform to our rule, secular Islam.
Understood.
No politics.
But we don't have those politicians. We have the ulama playing that role.
No, I'm not saying they are playing that role actively. They are being given from the institutions in the Muslim world. It's intertwined, it's interconnected. with the Azhar and with the Zaytuna, with the University of the Muslim world, the ulama that are coming there, okay, that are giving fatwas, that are directing the ulamas or the imams in the West, they are connected, right? So the root, the fasad starts at the root. The root is that we are Muslims. We should see ourselves as a minority in each country. We're not a global ummah. We don't have a global cause. We don't have a global project. We are Muslims in France. We are Muslims in Egypt. We're Muslims in Denmark. So you have to realize your own interest in the US as Muslim group. And we have to do the same in Denmark. That's the thought. So the minorities have to work for their own rights in their own minority places. All right? So this thought, that is coming from the roots, the universities that have been infiltrated, that has been given directions and limitations and a specific policy that is well known. The people that are talking and having the big titles or places and are giving directions for the ummah, they are, of course, handpicked. They are the sincere ones sitting in jail. You know how many thousands we have sincere ulama sitting in jail?
Oh, yes, of course.
We have thousands, brother.
There's no question.
Why? Because they will not adjust their Islam to what the rulers or the hukam wants them to say.
No.
So
When it comes to look, when it comes to the East, I understand the Muslim world. I understand
that taking directions from there.
Okay, see, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. And the ones who are taking directions are the ulama.
Yeah, but not directions in terms of a major conspiracy against the Muslims. No, nothing of that. It is by applying
deception.
Islamic.
Is deception same as
no, I would not
conspiracy?
say. I would not say it is deception. I would say the Muslims in the West and the ulamas that you have, these people are sincere. Most of them are sincere.
Sincere to what?
Sincere to Allah and to the Muslims. But they hold wrong beliefs. They think actually that it is from the hikmah of a Muslim not to talk about Islam public. They think that al-maslaha is something to be considered. They think that aqal dararain, the less of the two evils, is an Islamic approach to how to deal with things. So they are actually justifying their lack of taking the stance that they have to. They are justifying refraining from speaking up when they have to with Islamic argumentation. So this is not because they understand themselves as going against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Sharia by not talking. What they are saying is, this will lead to a mafsada that is bigger than this maslaha, so I will refrain.
But Sheikh, that has led to increase of, look, here's it. Yeah. Hear me out for a second. So if you, when I'm looking at these politics, I mean, ulama, we had one, he came here the other day and I asked him a simple question. I said, look, Sheikh, you're calling for voting and you're calling for this and that. And at one point, he even knew that, the person who's running for the position supports LGBTQ and all of this. And he's a big alim with PhD, doctor, everything, titles behind him. So I asked him, I said, I mean, let me ask, did you not know, do you consider homosexuality to be haram? He said, of course it's haram. Oh, I didn't know that the person was running for. Then he said, I asked him, he's running on Democratic ticket. He said, yes. So how are you that naive that you don't know that any politician that's running or anyone running for a position here would have to actually accept that, just like they have to accept the existence of Israel? He said, this. Then I asked him another question, Sheikh. I said, look, you somehow are coming up with some type of justification to do your action. But the son that's sitting next to you, the only thing he knows is that my father, I knew him as an alim. He supported even a candidate, even if he was homosexual, which is in Islam, we know what the rulings are. So, Sheikh, I mean,
this is buying and selling Islam. This is
that's what I'm saying. See, but you're saying they're sincere.
Yeah, no, yeah, but you need to understand the process they are going through, because with them they are. Brother, I count many of them as sincere, and I make dua.
I'm not saying no. I'm just saying
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide them, because they are just been programmed wrongly. That's a wrong.
Yasir Qadi is programmed wrongly.
I'm sorry?
Yasir Qadi is programmed.
I don't want to talk about specifics.
Oh no, you don't want to, but it's affecting us daily. You may not to forget him, but I'm saying ulama. Let's say just ulama.
That's a programming issue. That's a 404.
I mean, Yale.
No, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Some of them could be paid for the specific
20
agenda.
years of Islamic law, studying, PhDs in...
We cannot talk about.
I don't want to talk. But see, these are questions that come to us.
That question.
So I'm asking you.
Yeah, let me answer that question. See, the thing is, your way with the da'wah, irrespective of who you are, the brothers carrying the da'wah for khilafah, for the ummah, for purification, for the self, irrespective. People engaging in this work, 99.99999% of them are sincere doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look,
I know you said that.
We come back to this question.
But one more question to you, so you can answer that together.
Yeah.
There's a question he was asked. He said, Rasul Sallallahu if Quraysh would have offered him peace, he would have taken that offer in Mecca.
He offered him more.
You see, you said that the second thought in your mind was they offered him more.
Yeah.
Is this not twisting?
This makes us go back to the original point. The thought process of people, they have been polluted. The whole idea is I need to abstain from confronting the systems and the values of the society. How can we as Muslims survive in the West, specifically in the West? How can we as Muslims survive in the West without having a conflict with the values and the systems of the West? That's how things start. So you don't start, what are my role? What risala did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leave to us? We have a risala we have to carry. We have an offer. We have a message to the world. How can we bear this message to the world? We are part of a global ummah of 2 billion. What are our role as an ummah? How can we take people out from darkness into light? Why are we, in some cases, in more darkness than light? Our electricity is off, at least. But of course, the internal things, we have more light than they will ever see. But the thing is, if you don't carry your da'wah with this view, you will carry it with the other view. That is, how can we survive in these societies that are non-Islamic secular? So you try to fit Islam under the umbrella of the Western secular nationalistic democratic system. And you want to be part of that. My concern is, if we Muslims go down that path, Islam will end up being like Christianity. Why? Because if you first go into the idea of gain and loss, defining your stances toward politics or issues, then you have trained the Muslims and the Ummah and the next generation to follow the gains and avoid the losses, the maslahah. So if you understand that, and you do, of course, that will mean that it is justified to annul 2% of Islam. We don't speak about jihad. We keep quiet. If we speak about jihad, it's jihad an-nafs. Whereas jihad is the noble fight, not the fight to destroy schools, as you mentioned, not the fight to kill 200 people at the Fajr Salah 2 days ago, not to bomb tents and hospitals and buildings and people that are fleeing. That is not the jihad we are calling for. We are calling for jihad that will bring justice, that will free lands from occupation, that will save women, that will save kids, that will save houses, that will save mosques and churches. That's the jihad that we are calling for. Not this that it destroys children and women. If we don't talk about this as Muslims, as the solution, and we insist on taking this stance, then we would have, first of all, attained the sin for being quiet of what we have. Number two, if we talk about Palestine and we talk about other solutions, we have misguided. So we have been quiet, which is a sin. We have misguided, which is a sin. Three, we have learned the next generation that it's okay to hide Islam from the public when it's required. If that continues down the road, when there is elections, when there is about LGBT or homosexual, and you keep quiet, in the end, what will Islam end up being? It will end up being something that you practice in your home that has no significance on your life or the ummah in the. It will be an Islam that is out of color, out of taste, out of anything, because you have learned and spread the idea we have to adjust Islam to the circumstances that we are facing. And we can annul Islam in the name of the hikmah, in the name of the maslahah. Whereas all of this is refuted in Islam. The only maslahah we have is to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is there, that's the question I always will ask, is there a bigger maslahah, bigger gain than to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيارة من أمرهم. And if Allah and His messenger has decided a cause, there can be no room left for people to pick. It is decided. So the obedience to Allah is the biggest and only maslahah that we have. And and I was going to conclude with this, sometimes it also helps to make it practical, So in the masjid here, very beautiful masjid, mashallah, I saw just before I came in, I saw you had the thing that on the walls, like sabr and shukr. If you wonder, what is the meaning with sabr if we can always twist Islam, always not take the correct stand? Why do we have sabr? Sabr with what? If it's not sabr by following the Sharia, then why do we have a concept of sabr that is so big in Islam? Why? It would be unnecessary. Why have sabr? If every time I'm about to clash with someone and I can have a loss, I can refrain from the Sharia and pick my own path, then why have sabr? You see?
So let me ask you one more thing. Islam in Europe, or Islam in the West in general, what's the concern of the politicians here? When they go to sleep at night, what is it that gives them bad dreams?
That the population would see Islam for what it is and not for what they have been trying to portray for 30 years. Or let me say more correctly, for 24 years. No, especially after 9/11. So okay. Especially after 9/11, they invested a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of media to portray Islam as dangerous, as a threat, as something backwards, as something that belongs to the Middle Ages, as something that is unhuman. They are very, very afraid that the non-Muslims, the Danish, the French, the Germans, the Americans, they will see Islam for what it is and not what they have been told for 20 or 30 years or more. And we have a message to them. We have a message. If you have a neighbor, let me change the example. If this American and this American live next to each other, if this American becomes Muslim, he has to check up on his neighbor. He has to be in touch with him and see if he has any needs. He cannot cook food that will bother this man in his house. You have to take care of how he's dealing with his neighbor. This Islam will make the neighbors care for each other. People, elderly, kids, the society, the environment, the community itself, it will make things go better because you will, as Islam dictates, take care and be there for the neighbors and for the people. Islam makes people better. When the Americans will see this and they will understand just by looking from the interaction with Muslims, that makes an impact. What's even more, when they talk and he present the Islamic thoughts and he present the Islamic aqidah and he give argumentation and evidences and he has this good dialogue with him, they are afraid. All of this propaganda, the narratives that have been up for 20 years, they will fall one after the other. If the same American that has been Muslim, go to the media and start to talk about Islam to the public, it's a problem for catastrophe. Because now he is proposing a different set of beliefs, a different conviction, different aqidah. He's proposing different values, different way to do life. What has the American belief system brought to the world? Other than misery and misery and misery. killings, occupation, colonialism, destroyed families, destroyed communities, drugs and alcohol and you can start today and you would not finish for tomorrow. So how can they stop Islam? Not by thought. They don't have the intellectual capacity to confront the Islamic values. They don't have the intellectual foundation to not only challenge Islam, they can't even give an answer. So they don't pose a challenge, no challenge at all for the Islamic Aqidah. Not even an answer. The best answer they will have there, it doesn't concern me. I don't care. I want to live my life. And then you give him the realities and you talk to him about you can have a better life. You live and you know the meaning of your life, why you are here, and from where you came, and what will happen. So you start interacting. They want to shut this call down. So what are the typical responses in the US? If you propose Islam to the public, what would they tell you in America? It's a question for you. You're not used to it.
No, I'm trying to, I'm just, look, when it comes to the West, obviously, or in the US, Islam, there's only very few people that are actually presenting Islam the way it is. Oh, of course. I mean, we just here in this masjid since the day we started, alhamdulillah, since we purchased the church, it used to be a church for 100 years. Now it's a masjid. That itself is a sign, right? That it was a place of shirk and kufr, and now, alhamdulillah, place of tawheed. And since the day we've had this place to open, we have at least, I can count 6 or 7 became Muslim. Right? I think, just the last 3 to 4 weeks, we had one of the sisters who was staff, her brother became Muslim. And then we had another brother who's actually a sister called, became Muslim. And today at 6 o'clock, we have another meeting with somebody who's walking in. He came in and he said, I wanted to learn about Islam. We told them to come today at 6 o'clock. So, alhamdulillah, look, people are obviously looking for some objective in life. They're trying to figure out what it is. But Sheikh, the question is that 60% of those who enter Islam in this country, they leave Islam.
They leave
Islam. It's a huge number. On the top of that, you have within the Muslims, if somebody was to do some serious number looking at it, and they will be shocked at the amount of Muslim youth who are already, they don't think like Muslims. We had a scholar the other day, he was telling me, look, we have a lot of youth who say, I'm only saying I'm a Muslim because my parents I don't want my parents angry with me. So I'm just keeping myself, I pray and I whatever. Look, there is secularism has created serious damages within the Muslims and societies. The Muslim communities here. Very, very serious damages. Masajid you go to, masajid are having to entertain their youth rather than give them a thought process. Like you said, look, they have all the wealth but no thoughts. And here, even the masajid that we have today are giving our youth no thoughts rather than just entertaining them to death. So I am concerned. I have a huge concern for the Muslims in the West. I don't know what that number. Their concerns here, whether our coming generation or the following one will be Muslim or not. This is a very serious discussion, at least in the US.
I understand. See, this is something that is very specific. So in order to address it, require more information.
Oh, of course, I agree with that. But a lot of these ulama
but the
are
thing
paying
is,
it to
there's some common things. There's some common things that you can see. This phenomenon that you're talking about is not only a US phenomenon. It's not even a Western. It's not even a Western phenomenon.
Yes, across the world.
Even the Muslim world, right? So you have, and this is something that we need to realize. There are forces and powers that are trying to make Islam illegitimate, right? There are forces that are trying to make Islam sound less convincing and not convincing at all, and strange and backwards and what have you. These are forces. This is a policy. Okay, and this policy is also directed towards the Muslims. They want our children. Let me give you an example. In around, I don't remember, maybe it was in 2004 or 2006. The Danish Prime Minister, which later became the NATO Secretary, he said, if we integrate a Muslim man, we integrate a Muslim man. But if we integrate a Muslim woman, we integrate a whole family. So this was in little Denmark, insignificant Denmark, for around 20 years ago. That we go after the women and we will get the children, the whole family. So they worked on this with the media, with the entertainment, with the school system, with the curriculums, with everything. They tried to make Muslims secularized, westernized, and if they were Muslim, they are Muslim like by name, all right? So that's a thing that is very much imposed on the Muslim communities all over the world. Now, this, we have two choices. As the ulama, as the da'wah carriers, and I address the da'wah carriers in my talk. We can continue to talk about reforming the soul and the purification thing, the khutabs that we have heard many years being repeated, and be safe, preserve our platform. And we see Muslims leaving Islam more and more and more and more. Or we can shift and stand up for Islam, educate ourselves, go to the people around us that have understood secularism, have understood the Western values and why they are not working, and why they are not true values, and why the Islamic system and Islamic values and Islamic belief are the truth sent from the great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go to them and educate yourself. And these people should help them to enter the arena where we will fight and battle of thoughts and values. This we have to. This is only means to preserve the Muslim community, and maybe we can push Islam forward to the non-Muslims. But what is the best da'wah carrier in the world? You know who's the best da'wah carrier in the world? People think maybe Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's true. If it was a human, I thought of, but no, I'm thinking of the state. The state is the best carrier of da'wah to the world and to the nations.
يعني الدولة الإسلامية.
طبعا إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا. So when the victory came and Islam is established, and you will see crowds of people entering Islam, the best da'wah carrier is the Islamic state, al-Khilafah. This will portray the Islamic message to the different nations and populations in its true manner, or what it is, not what they have been told it is. And you will see people enter Islam not in millions, in billions, when they see the truth and the justice and the proofs of Islam. So this is an unusual time we live in. So every da'wah carrier in the West and in the Muslim world, if they want Islam to be successful, if they want Islam to be victorious, if they want Islam to be established, they need to think of how can I not only establish Islam in myself and in my family, in my community, but how can I establish Islam in the world as well? Because the establishment in the world will lead to the establishment of Islam in the humans, individuals, and nations, and tribes and populations. So going back to the thought about doing the secular Islam and teaching, like you have many institutions, platform Islamic institutions, I call them, that are focusing on the secular, the individual aspects of life. So they want people to be purified. They want people to be like close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can you come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you turn your back to the obligation of establish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sharia? Is it possible to bear a call for the human individual to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you at the same time are quiet about establishing sharia of Allah? This is not possible. Why do we Now, let me give you an example. If this masjid, you build this masjid, right? And you have it, you bought it, you made it. And you have a school, right? And you will teach people, right? The fiqh and the Quran, right? What if someone come and says, don't build a school? Why? Start by building individuals. Let everyone learn the fiqh and have established fiqh and Arabic and hifz and tajweed in himself. And when you have a lot of people that are like this, then the masjid will come by itself. You see, this doesn't make sense. How will I establish the closeness of the humans to Allah and the Islam in the people if I don't have a markaz? If I go to a place people cannot read, I will not say, let me start by getting all the people and knowing how to read, then I build a school. No, that's not how it works. You build a school, and from that school, you will educate and graduate people. You build a masjid and you learn people fiqh and tajweed. Oh, so we built a state. And with this state, we'll have a lot of people coming close to us. Because the entertainment will be Islam. The media will be Islam. The school system will be Islam. The taqwa will be all over the society. People will have a hard time making sense. Today, it is so hard for the Muslims in the West and in the whole world to live by Islam. It is, as Muhammad says, is as you are holding on to a hot coal. Why? Because everything around you, temptations and difficulties, are pushing you in the wrong direction. The few that are strong, they are trying and they are keep going the opposite direction. In the Islamic State, the one that wants to sin, that wants to drink and wants to do fahisha, he will have a hard time. Whereas for people to pray and not look at the haram and not do the haram stuff and not trading haram and buying and seeing and selling, it will be, no one will think of it because you have a state and people will enter Islam. So let's not forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for us a solution. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us the path of how to establish the state and what the state is capable of. And we are today, all Muslims almost, a lot of Muslims, they want the Islamic Khilafah to be reestablished. The question is, going back to the case of Palestine, we have to liberate our minds in order to liberate our lands.
This is something I want to end this with, and you don't have much time, literally 1 minute. You final thoughts on Palestine. Your advice to the Muslims, your nasiha to the Muslims. What must be done?
We as Muslims need to take ownership of our own affairs on the basis of Islam and only Islam. Going back to our roots, going back to our deen, going back to the Quran and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and following him in the way out of this crisis that we are in. We have, and I'm going back to the issue of boycott, we have to boycott the Western solutions, Western governments, the national state, the flags. We have to boycott those flags. We have to boycott everything that resembles national state and nationalism and flags and the international community and the international world order. We have to attain clarity of the Islamic project, Islamic Khilafah, Islamic systems, and we have to insist on calling on the Islamic solutions no matter the price. The price will be high. I'm not saying that this call, that we are having this discussion now, that people can have this discussion everywhere in the world. I'm not saying that. I understand. And I understand some ulamas, imams, they are afraid of the repercussions or the consequences. I understand that. I'm not saying there are no consequences. I'm not saying that. There will be consequences. But when you look at Gaza, when you see what happened 2 days ago, when you saw the bombings of the school.
This morning, they've asked the population to move again.
Yeah. When you saw what happened, I saw the news before coming on, another 25 in a hit, another 25, just minutes before. So when you see this, billahi alik, can you justify to be quiet? Can you justify not to talk the Islamic solution? When you see that they have given up everything, that their lives, and their homes and everything have been destroyed and they're under the rubble, can you justify not taking the Islamic stance? Can we as an ummah justify for ourselves that we keep on calling the Western governments that are funding and supporting and aiding this occupation state, this terror state? Can we do this? You know, in Denmark, yesterday I received, or 2 days ago, I received a message. I saw a Danish man. He said, I've had enough. This Israel has to be eliminated. He's a non-Muslim. And people are giving the same messages, non-Muslim people, saying, I've had enough with this going on. Israel needs to, there has to be an end to Israel. There has to cease to exist. People want peace. You want peace. Everyone wants peace. The only time there's been peace in Palestine was under the Islamic Caliphate.
Yeah.
So if you want peace, whether you're Muslim or not Muslim, you have to support the Caliphate. If you want peace for Palestine, I'm not saying only Muslims have to support the Caliphate. Even non-Muslims should support Palestine, the Khilafah, because this will bring peace to what you are seeing in the Middle East. The Muslims have no problems with Jewish people. This is not a question about Muslims and Jews. This is a question about occupation. This is a question about Zionism. This is a question about apartheid. This is a question about colonialism. So this has nothing to do with the Jewish belief or the Christian. This has something to do with a political world order that has forsaken and has the ethnic cleansing. We're talking about ethnic cleansing of around 500 villages in Palestine. 700 people have
just in Gaza, 1.9 million.
Just in Gaza. So this is not. This is the new thing. But the establishment itself was based on ethnic cleansing and genocide and killings. So it was born with blood on its hands, right? And it is born with the killings of other people. So they established the state on the pulse of Muslims and people. So my nasiha would be that we have no choice. We don't deserve to live as Muslims. We don't deserve to live as Muslims if we don't stand up. We don't. This is our aqidah. This is deep inside. This is something that the air that we breathe, if we refrain from taking the Islamic stance, we will be regretful. Let me finish with the best nasiha. You ask me a nasiha. I give a nasiha from the best man, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Someone asked him, Ya Rasulullah, give us a nasiha. He said, قُلْ أَمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ. Say, I believe in Allah, I have iman, and I am steadfast. I'm standing firm on what? On Islam, the Sharia. That's my advice.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. It's been, I know you have minutes left. So, Jazakallah khair. Hopefully, this will not be the last one. We will be talking to you, inshallah, from Denmark also. Have a safe trip. And for the rest of us, brothers and sisters, obviously, Gaza is on the minds of all of the Muslims across the world. Even you see people in the harshest situations, whether it's Kashmir or even Yemen or even Bangladesh, people are holding the flag of Palestine. Whatever they think in their mind is a way to support and show their support to the Muslims of Palestine and Gaza. So we have no choice, as the brother said, and that is a nasiha. Believe in Allah Azza wa Jalla and summa istaqim, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give our brothers a victory in its reality, meaning that those people are taken accountable and the criminals they pay for their crimes, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We'll see you, inshallah, Sheikh.
لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر لا 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 لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر صبح بدا نور ظهر نجم وشمس وقمر ألقى على الدنيا الدرر هذا عمر هذا عمر كل البرايا تنتظر أيامه البيض الغرر كي تستفيد من العبر هذا عمر هذا عمر لا لن تدوم الجراح بل سيأتي الصباح نحن أهل الكفاح نحن فينا عمر. لا لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح. نحن أهل الكفاح.